All right, we've got the crypto market up here running from livecoinwatch.com. And you know what? We're going to start out with everybody's favorite Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. And let me just check the stream real quick. Everything's looking kosher, I believe. Everyone's favorite Speaker of the House here in the United States, Nancy Pelosi. I believe she's been in Congress in the House of Representatives since 1988. I think that's when I was looking at some old footage of her back in 1988. I think that's when she started her campaign. She got into the House right around there, 88, 89, whatever it was. She was talking about Afghanistan back then. And back then, the Russians were in Afghanistan. So it's pretty. She's been in office for so long, even when Russia was in Afghanistan, and then you see what happened in the modern day here with Biden's withdrawal from Afghanistan recently. Pretty insane. But let me. Too many browser tabs open, and I want to start out. I had a video. I believe it was from. I don't think I have it anymore. I did have it up here, but we'll start with this New York Post article. So Nancy Pelosi did land in Taiwan today. There was a lot of confusion around it. CCP made it sound like it was going to be World War III. They threatened to shoot down Pelosi's plane. I think she's still in Taiwan, but she's probably close to leaving Taiwan. I also want to check. Oh, and the OBS tile for Restream is not updating the title of the stream. I don't know why it's not doing that, but that's a bit annoying. Just give me a second here. I'm going to reload that. All right, well, so do Restream channels. Let's see if it updates it now. So Pelosi basically comes out of nowhere, says she's going to be visiting Taiwan. Then the Beijing-Biden administration is taken aback by this. Biden makes a public statement that he spoke to the Pentagon, and Pentagon doesn't think it's a good idea. Setting up this whole thing, obviously, Biden administration is deeply compromised with the Hunter Biden dealings. Hunter Biden has taken large sums of money from an oil company in China and perhaps directly from the CCP, but that's definitely documented. The oil company in China. We don't know what else. So it's my impression that Biden, who knows? I mean, he's already on the way out. But on top of that, Pelosi, before she landed in Taiwan, according to the New York Post, also Pelosi and her husband have been. If you look at the investments her husband has made over her time in the House of Representatives, he's made many, many insider trading deals related to the House of Representatives' dealings with laws and things along those lines and companies. And Pelosi fortune is well above $120 million. So here we have Pelosi selling $5 million in Nvidia stock ahead of her trip to Taiwan. And reading from the article, as the Capitol Hill vote looms this week on a controversial $52 billion subsidy to chip makers, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband quietly offloaded a chunk of shares in semiconductor giant Nvidia, according to public filings. Pelosi sold the $5 million trove of shares Tuesday at a loss of more than $300,000. It's unclear whether the couple sold their entire stake or just a portion of it. They could still own as much as $6.5 million in Nvidia, according to CongressTrading.com. Meanwhile, the Pelosi's still hold a stake in semiconductor company Micron, worth as much as $500,000. And the Nvidia sell-off is a dramatic reversal for the Pelosi's. Paul began snapping up semiconductor stocks in 2021, in June. The same month the first draft of the bill was introduced. He bought between $2.75 million and $11.5 million over the past year and has been actively trading these shares the entire time the bill has wended its way through Congress. And just last month, the bill went towards a vote. Pelosi bought between $1 million and $5 million more in Nvidia shares. So why is she dumping it now? Nvidia has a lot of issues. With Ethereum, it goes proof of stake. There's going to be a massive flood of cards, especially the NVIDIA 3000 series cards, out on the cheap in the market, and NVIDIA is getting ready to release their 4000 series. And who knows? And CCP has been flying sorties over Taiwan for quite some time, making it known to the world that Taiwan is part of China. Will they invade? Is that why she's starting to dump? And then she's obviously doing this to increase tensions between China. So there's a lot going on here. We're not going to find out more until more time passes. I highly doubt CCP will invade Taiwan when everyone expects it. It just doesn't make sense. But it's possible they will be waiting at a future moment, maybe sometime this year or next year, to do it. It's definitely on their to-do list. They're going to celebrate 100 years of communism in 2049. They have to do it before then because of their pride, I guess. And they have a 100-year plan to dominate the world. And they're doing a pretty good job of it. Furthermore, in the article, the numbers aren't clear because members of Congress are only required to list wide ranges in dollar values of their stocks rather than precise figures. They can also use more complex financial instruments like options, which is what her husband does a lot of, to get exposure to stocks without holding shares. So basically options like futures, predicting, putting down money, saying, all right, whatever, Nvidia stock's going to go down or up, short the stock or pump it up. And options are a great thing to do when you have insider trading information. That's what most people do when they get hold of that information. Likewise, skeptics aren't satisfied with the fact the couple lost money on the chip stock purchases. Yeah, I mean, we don't know the full extent of what they were doing, what they're moving around with their stocks. They could be actually making money because they're not. These politicians are not required by law to give extensive detail, and that I think has to be Pelosi's legacy. They have to create better regulation. Insider trading is rampant in the United States. There was recently a Republican. I don't think he was actively an active Republican in the House or anything like that. But he was a former Republican. I believe he was prosecuted recently for insider trading. So it does happen, but no one can picture it happening to Pelosi, as she seems untouchable, almost like a mafioso character in a movie. I mean, she is Italian. She is mafioso. There's no doubt about that. So, Mr. Pelosi bought options to buy stock in this company more than a year ago and exercised them on June 17, 2022, the flag said. As always, he does not discuss these matters with the Speaker until trades have been made and required Disclosures must be prepared and filed. Mr. Pelosi decided to sell the shares at a loss rather than allow the misinformation in the press regarding this trade to continue. The legislation, which just cleared the Senate and is headed to the House, aims to address the semiconductor chip shortage, a crucial piece of technology needed for electronic products ranging from cars to microwaves. Months after the bill was first introduced in June 2020, June 21 by Senator Ron Wyden, R&D companies banded together in February to push for the same benefits manufacturers were getting. In March, McCall, Republican from Texas, introduced an updated bill that, if incorporated, will benefit companies in research and development like Nvidia. I know that Intel is definitely moving forward a lot with factories in both Arizona and Ohio to build CPUs and GPUs, but will that be enough? Those factories are going to take 2 to 5 years, somewhere around there, maybe 3 to 5 years to really come online in full strength. So the CCP has plenty of time to plan an invasion of Taiwan and take it, which it seems to be almost certain every day as Russia has invaded Ukraine. China could be thinking that U.S. would never want to create a world war and would allow China to take Taiwan, and probably would do similar to what they did in Ukraine and just supply weaponry to Taiwan. But it seems there are active aircraft carriers near Taiwan right now because of Pelosi's visit. So I don't know. We can't tell for certain if the U.S. would actually help fight the war in Taiwan. I mean, the U.S. fought a war in Korea, North Korea, and fought the Chinese back then. Obviously, that was a different time, but it's possible. And China's military is growing every day. I'm going to move on to this guy right here, Yuval Noah Harari. He's an historian, philosopher, and the author of the bestsellers Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, Homo Deus, A Brief History of Tomorrow, and 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. Co-founder of Sapienship, a multidisciplinary organization advocating for global responsibility whose mission is to clarify the public conversation, support the quest for solutions, and focus attention on the most important challenges facing the world today: technological disruption, ecological collapse, and the nuclear threat. He's one of the darkest futurists I've ever come across. Ray Kurzweil is a futurist also, who's actually much more technical than Yuval Harari. He just seems like an academic who just, can read. He can read about technology, but he doesn't understand technology. And as I said earlier in the stream, he's working directly with Klaus Schwab in the World Economic Forum. So that'll give you an idea of where he's coming from. This is an excerpt from forbiddenknowledge.net. A video is taken down here. Probably for reasons. I am on SnoozeTube right now, and hopefully there's no issues. But Yuval Harari seems like a nice guy, but he also doesn't have many good things to say to what he deems useless humans, which he, according to his words, is a very large percentage of the population. Coming from this article is going to be a transcript of some of his words. And we'll start off with, again, I think the biggest question maybe in economics and politics of the coming decades will be what to do with all these useless people. This is directly from Yuval Noah Harari, this Israeli professor of history, who, when you do Google searches and what have you, the searches make it seem like this guy is world-renowned. I'm just not getting that impression. he's definitely being propped up in many ways here. There's not all the criticism of him is buried in the Google search, so that's telling you something there. I've even tried pre-search, and pre-search didn't come up with too much. But you're going to hear more and more about him because the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab are becoming more and more. They're dominating the media cycle more and more. You have the Dutch farmers, the whole clean energy, and decimating the working class's way to make a living. And it's happening to the Dutch. It's going to start happening in Canada. Already has, to some degree, with Trudeau trying to block nitrogen in the farmland. And Harari is working directly with Klaus Schwab and all this. So reading more from his quotes, the problem is more. So basically he's going on about how most people are useless. And what are we to do with all these useless people? And he states further, the problem is more boredom and what to do with them and how will they find some sense of meaning in life when they are basically meaningless and worthless. Okay, so what is Harari? I mean, isn't he part of that crowd, or is he saying that he's an elite and he deserves to live? I mean, what other interpretation can we give here? And why is this guy being propped up so much? Reading further from his transcript of what he has said, my best guess at present is a combination of drugs and computer games is a solution for most. It's already happening under different titles, different headings. You see more and more people spending more and more time or solving their inner problems with the drugs and computer games, both legal drugs and illegal drugs. You look at Japan today, Japan is maybe 20 years ahead of the world and everything, as you see all these new social phenomena of people having relationships with virtual spouses, and you have people who never leave the house and just live through computers. I think once you're superfluous, you don't have power. Again, we are used to the age of the masses of the 19th and 20th centuries. We saw these successful massive uprisings, revolutions, revolts, so we got used to thinking about the masses as powerful, but this is basically a 19th century and 20th century phenomenon. I don't think that the masses, even if they somehow organize themselves, stand much of a chance. We are not in Russia in 1917 or in 19th century Europe. So basically, he's saying that technology will be used to cull the useless herd into some type of virtual metaverse or what have you, and that's where they'll stay. And their minds are basically can be farmed and manipulated. Now, the Chinese Communist parties, CCP, are doing tests like this. They're building virtual cities. And I believe they'll probably be the first country, if the CCP stands, they'll be the first country to do something like this, where they'll create this dystopian virtual world reality metaverse. Obviously, Mark Zuckerberg's doing his best to beat China to the punch, but I think China's going to get there first. We got any word in the chat? Jones was on the stand today, finishes off tomorrow morning. Yeah, I'm not going to, because I'm on D-Live right now and even SnoozeTube, I'm not going to go near Jones because I just don't want the heat. There's too much heat around him. But you know what? Hey, one of these days, I might do a Odyssey only stream. Odyssey and a few others, maybe stream directly to my Variant News relay, variantnews.com, variantnews.live, rather. I was trying to get a live stream working with Odyssey today, but I couldn't get it to create a live stream. I contacted their support email to let them know. Every time I try to create one, it just times out and just says error message and doesn't say why it's broken. So that's not good. Getting back to Harari. Continuing further from transcripts of what this guy said, so he says further, what we are talking about now is not like a second industrial revolution, but the product this time will not be textiles or machines or vehicles or even weapons. The product this time will be humans themselves. We're basically learning to produce bodies and minds. Bodies and minds are going to visit, I think, the two main products of the next wave of all these things. That is optional. Again, if you think about it from the viewpoint of the poor, it looks terrible because throughout history, death was the great equalizer. The big consolation of the poor throughout history was that, okay, these rich people, they have it good, but they're going to die just like me. I mean, the way this guy thinks is just, I don't know. It's extremely twisted. He goes on to say, but think about the world, say in 50 years, 100 years, where the poor people continue to die, but the rich people, in addition to all of the other things they get, they also get an exemption from death. And this is what I'm talking about with that Netflix sci-fi series, Altered Carbon. Let's just see what's, let's duplicate this. I want to see, get a couple scenes from Altered Carbon that I can show. Alright, I don't know why that went into full screen.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Michael at RBM Crypto. Today I have an exciting new video.
The movie is pretty violent, so I don't want to like do one of the more violent scenes. That may be only 2 series on for Altered Carbon because of the recession and everything else. They're going to be cutting back at Netflix, and Netflix is not doing well. This one's pretty cool. I'm going to do this scene right here. This is from Altered Carbon. It's a great series if you haven't seen it, Altered Carbon on Netflix, and it basically it talks about mess, and these are the wealthiest of the wealthiest, what you would consider like Bill Gates, Bezos, whatever, Musk nowadays, but they've become, and Jeff Bezos is actively working on trying to live forever. I mean, he's looking at longevity science, I'm sure, and he's dumping millions, if not billions, into it. And you're going to see that from most of these billionaires. Maybe we're 2, 3, 5 generations away from real longevity, but they'll get there, I would think, eventually. And in the series Altered Carbon, they basically rule the world, and the masses just get scraps and are poor. And that's basically what Harari is saying here. He's also a science fiction writer, so I think he's in very much of a la-la land. And you didn't have, politically, you didn't have people talking like this 20 years ago. Nowadays, they just come out and say it more and more. So let me finish with a little bit more from some of Harari's direct quotes here. So once you really solve a problem like direct brain-computer interface, when brains and computers can react directly, for example, to take just one example, that's it. That's the end of history. Another thing to add here, technology-wise, if they can get to the point with nanobots and other things, that definitely will increase longevity. If nanobots can traverse our bloodstream, they'll be able to get there and have humans live for 300, 500 years. Think about how many diseases have to do with the blood, heart attacks. So many things could be prevented with nanobots. Finishing up from his transcript, if life can basically break out of the organic realm into the vastness of the inorganic realm, you cannot even begin to imagine what the consequences will be because your imagination at present is organic. So if there's a point of singularity, as it's often referred to, by definition, we have no way of even starting to imagine what's happening beyond that. Looking before the point of singularity just as a trend, it is a gathering place. It is the new attitude. I think it is to treat old age and death as technical problems, no different in essence than any other disease. It's like cancer, it's like Alzheimer's, it's like tuberculosis. Maybe we still don't know all the mechanisms and all the remedies, but in principle, people always die for one reason and one reason only. And these are technical reasons, not metaphysical reasons. People today actually manage to live, many people, as isolated, alienated individuals. In the most advanced societies, many people live as alienated individuals with no community to speak about. With a very small family, it's no longer the big extended family. It's now a very small family, maybe just a spouse, maybe one or two children, and even they might live in a different city, in a different country, and you see them maybe once in every few months, and that's it. After a million years of evolution, suddenly within 200 years, the family and intimate community break, they collapse. Most of the roles filled by the family and by the intimate community for thousands and tens of thousands of years are transferred very quickly to new networks provided by the state and the market. You don't need children. You can have a pension fund. You don't need somebody to take care of you. You don't need neighbors and sisters or brothers to take care of you. When you're sick, the state take care of you. States provide you with police, with education, with help, with everything in terms of ideas, in terms of religion. The most interesting place in the world in religious terms is Silicon Valley. It's not the Middle East. This is where the new religions are being created now by people like Ray Kurzweil, and there's these religions that will take over the world. So you can see why he's very much tied to Klaus Schwab. I mean, he's basically saying that you should just bow down to the state, become a servant to the state. Governments around the world, but especially in the West, have done a really good job of breaking up the family unit and alienating citizens. So this has all been happening slowly over the decades, and who knows? We'll see what happens with the technology. But this guy Harari is extremely dark individual, a misanthrope. Most people, when you look at Elon Musk, he'll come out and say, "Look, AI is going to be bad. If it becomes sentient, it may realize that it can, take over humanity, what have you. It could replicate, blah blah blah." And he says, those are bad things. This Harari guy, he's just like, look, you should be all for what I'm talking about. Let's just decimate the majority of the population because they're useless and make them into total slaves. And he thinks that he should be popular for stating something like that. He thinks he should be worshipped for saying things like that. It's completely bizarre. I'll have more coverage of this guy on future streams. I did have a video from High Impact Flicks that I found here, and I have to find it. Yeah, here it is. So I'm going to do a little bit of this video on Harari. And let's check it out.
Studying the past, his Israeli roots are of crucial importance to the formation of his view of the future. He's now using all of that knowledge to give us his vision for the future.
With especially the rise of brain-computer interfaces and biometric sensors and so forth, it is very likely that within, say, 50 years, people will literally be part of a network. All the bodies, all the brains would be connected together to a network, and you won't be able to survive if you're disconnected from the net, because your own body parts, your own immune system perhaps depends on being constantly connected to the colony, to the network. The new powers that we are gaining now, especially the powers of biotechnology and artificial intelligence, are really going to transform us into gods. And I don't mean this as a kind of literary metaphor. I mean it in a literal sense, that humans are acquiring divine abilities, especially the ability to create and to design life. not everybody will be able to upgrade themselves, and not everybody will have access to or have control over the new big data algorithms. Of 8 billion people in the world, the vast majority will stay just ordinary Homo sapiens, and they are likely to lose their economic value, their political power, their control over their lives. And we are likely to see an extremely unequal society in which a very small elite, either of upgraded humans or of those humans who own the master algorithms, like the Google algorithm or the Facebook algorithm.
Are you surprised that we haven't seen more
So that was a excerpt from High Impact's Flicks, who was streaming a lot on DLive, but it looks like he's moved on to Odyssey and maybe a few other platforms, but I'm only finding new videos from him on Odyssey. I think he's probably doing what he can on SnoozeTube. I want to do a little bit more on Harari. I know it's painful, but Harari was born in Israel in 1976. He received a PhD from the University of Oxford in 2002 and is currently a lecturer at the Department of History in the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. In 2019, following the international success of his books, Harari co-founded Sapienship with his husband and original agent, Itzik Yahav. Sapienship is a social impact company with projects in the fields of entertainment and education, whose main goal is to focus the public conversation on the most important global challenges facing the world today. He's giving keynote speeches on the future of humanity at Davos 2020, surprising, which is Davos is founded by Klaus Schwab way back in, I believe, 60s or 70s. He founded Davos. But he spoke at 2020 and 2018 at the World Economic Forum. In 2019, Harari sat down for a film discussion on technology and the future of society with Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg. And in 2018, he presented the first ever TED Talk delivered by a digital avatar. He's definitely on the cutting edge, there's no doubt about that. And here's a list of all his books. But another thing that I found strange, and I think I still have it up here somewhere, was all these children's books that he writes. That's the one thing I found that was truly bizarre. Do we really want a guy like this writing children's books? I guess they want to get him early, right? It was off Walmart. Where the hell was it? Oh, this is a stupid fact. If I do this, you go to new tab, right? We go Walmart. Not the PS5, but doo-doo. Yeah, these are all these books. These are all the books on sale at Walmart that Harari, I guess, wrote. The Toddler Science Activity Book. Human Body Activity Book for Kids. The Assemblies of AI, Harari. Let me check out some of this stuff just to see how this guy thinks. It's absolutely bizarre. I think that's pretty much it. He's also Generation X. He was born in the 70s, so he's Generation X. And I'm gonna that'll be all the Harari will be doing this stream. I know it was quite painful. Checking out the chat. Anywhere it says Harari is sick in the head. I don't think High Impact Flicks has been streaming anywhere lately. He's been putting out short videos. Yeah, I've only seen some short videos up on Odyssey from High Impact Flicks. I'm not sure what's going on there. It is still blazingly hot. It's still 72 degrees where I'm at. I'm waiting for the temperature to drop. My mining rigs are keeping everything hot. Which reminds me, I just have to check on... I put a new card online, GPU. I got to make sure everything's kosher. We got Kelsey Kish in the chat. How you doing, Kelsey? Good to see you. I'm going to move on, check out what's on Odyssey here. I also want to check and see if I can create a new stream. I have not been able to create a new stream on Odyssey today. Has anyone... Also, Odyssey now has a queue that you can create, guess, which is a playlist of videos. Has anyone tried that out on Odyssey? Not enough funds to cover this transaction. I think it's... I have plenty of funds. I'm trying to create a live stream on Odyssey, and it's telling me I don't have enough funds, but I have 593 library tokens, so I don't know what's going on with that. I got to do 0.5. I'll just do 0.5. I don't know what else to do here. Do half a token. No. Not enough funds to... I don't have enough funds to create a new live stream on Odyssey, but I obviously do, so there's something buggy going on with that. Def Mike's streaming tonight. He started streaming at 8 p.m. He's on Odyssey and a few others. Another streamer that used to stream on DLive, not streaming as much. Let's see. I'm going to check out this Epoch Times video. It's 1 hour ago. It will cover Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. Let's see.
Secretary General Lin Zhijia, colleagues of the Legislative Yuan.
This video is kind of low. There's Pelosi in Taiwan. She's got her mask on. She's following all the protocols, making sure she doesn't give anybody COVID.
我相信尤院长虽然人不在现场，但他的心一定与大家同在，与民主自由同在。
She looks like she's going to fall asleep. I don't know.
I want to apologize to distinguished guests because Speaker Yo has COVID after he returned from Europe last week. He is still under quarantine, so he cannot meet you in person today. I believe that even though he is not here today.
I don't know if this is just direct footage from the meeting. I don't think they're going to have any kind of analysis on here. Pelosi is trying to figure out what the woman is saying. I don't think she knows Taiwanese. One thing I want to discuss about Taiwan, a possible invasion by the CCP. Now, I've read many conflicting reports that the people in Taiwan, some people are saying it's split 50-50. Most people, or, say 50% of people want to remain independent. The other 50% want China to come in and take over Taiwan. I've also read that it's a very small percentage, only 10%. The people in Taiwan support a Chinese takeover. And I was watching a recent streamer who got banned or is close to getting banned permanently from YouTube, stating that, the United States is the problem and we're creating more tension there, and the Taiwanese people want to be taken over by China. So I don't know what he was trying to say. But at least from a technical and economic perspective, if Taiwan was taken by the CCP, 75% of silicon is manufactured there. All our GPUs, CPUs, from cars to PlayStations, Xbox to computers, that would all go away. If the war broke out, we would get no production of that. Plus, on top of that, CCP can't just go into Taiwan and bomb the crap out of it, because they want those semiconductor plants, because they're getting better at creating CPUs and GPUs, but they could go in, if they kept that semiconductor factories intact, they go in and take that technology over, and then, charge the West or whatever enormous prices for it or whatever. I'm sure they would do something diabolical. So I don't know why more people don't realize that. Obviously, in the long run, we are better off producing the GPUs and CPUs here in the U.S. Intel, as I've stated, is doing the best they can to get factories online, but it's going to take 3 to 5 years to do that. So, Kelsey says in the chat, 1440 looks great. Yeah, I've got to look at refactoring everything. I think my canvas is still at 1080p in OBS, but I created a new install on Mac OS, and I'm trying to get this Blackmagic Design, the ATEM Mini Pro ISO working. It's like a video hardware device. And when I installed OBS from a clean install, it recognized my 1440 monitor, so I don't know. 1080p is the standard, so, but I'm going to have to play around with it. But there's a whole bunch of issues I still got to tweak. But yeah, I guess it looks all right. The playback is still a little pokey, though. Let's see what else we can find here on Odyssey. Probably going to check out a Mark Moss video and maybe call it a stream. We will check out where Mark Moss is. I haven't checked out any of his recent videos. Global Energy Reset. Maybe we'll check out 2 of these videos. We'll check out some excerpts from 2 of these Mark Moss videos.
Warning. This will repeat a global disaster unless we realize what's going on and we take action. When you look back through history, there were massive disasters that happened that led to...
All right, I'm going to do something crazy and reset my resolution on a live stream here. I don't know if everything's going to blow up, so just give me a second here. Because macOS keeps resetting. Okay, so it is, I should still be at 120 hertz and 1440p, but it's saying low resolution, so it's non-HDR. All right, never mind.
Massive casualties, and we can look back with the benefit of hindsight and see what went wrong. The problem...
Anywhere, thanks for the lemon, I appreciate it. And I'm working on... So I'm working on this ATEM Mini Pro ISO setup. I have a bunch of iPhones, and I'd rather just use those. The cameras are actually pretty good on those. I'm trying to hook I got an iPhone XR and an iPhone 6. Both have decent cameras. I'm trying to hook them up to the ATEM Pro, but I have a non-Apple certified Lightning cable to HDMI adapter, and I believe that's the issue, because I can't get this adapter to work with any kind of output to a monitor. So hoping my adapter comes tomorrow. I can start setting up the ATEM Mini. It does a lot of cool features, has built-in transitions and backdrops and all that. I'm not sure if I'll be able to record to a hard drive and also record a live stream, or send out a live stream, because to get it to work with OBS, you have to hook it up through USB-C to your computer. But the software looks pretty good. DaVinci, the video editing software, comes with it, with the ATEM. So I'm going to get that installed. So there's a lot. It's got the whole complete package for video editing. So I'm hoping I can take things to the next level. Or just crash in a ball of flame. I don't know which one's going to happen.
Is the quote that says that those who don't know history are bound to repeat it, doomed to repeat it, and that's exactly what happened. So in this video, I'm going to break down and show you exactly what's happening right now today, things I've been talking about, show you the policies that are being put in place that are forcing these actions, and I'm going to show you through the lens of history when these exact same things have been applied and exactly what happened. Hint, it's not good. And I'm going to tell you what we can do, hopefully, to change this before it's too late. So let's go. Welcome back. If you're new to the channel, my name is Mark Moss, and I make these videos to change the way you think about money, because almost everything you've learned is wrong. Everything they're telling you is mostly wrong. And I'm going to show you exactly that. With the benefit of hindsight, we're going to dip into history to see exactly what's going on today, how that's looked throughout history, and that should give us an idea of what should come next. All right, you ready? Let's get into this. Okay, so I've been talking a lot about ESG, environmental, social, governance. It sounds so great, doesn't it? They always name these things that most people would like the Don't Kill Puppies Act. I mean, who would be against something like that, right? So we have ESG, which really at its core is central planning. We're going to talk about this quite a bit throughout this message. Central planning. That means instead of letting you or I dictate what's best for my life or your life, somebody far, far away centrally plans what you and I should be doing. Doesn't sound so good, does it? Let me show you how bad this is. So we have these global attacks that have been happening all around the world. When I talk about this attack, I mean an attack on your freedom, attack on your ability to choose what is best for your life. And of course, I've been repeating this over and over. Henry Kissinger gave us these warnings. If you watch my videos regularly, you know these by heart now. He said, of course, who controls the food supply controls the people. Control the food supply, control the people, controls the energy, controls the whole continent.
So Kissinger, back in the 70s, when Nixon was president of the United States, Kissinger went to China and probably is responsible more than any other individual for the current predicament that we're in, where we've got the CCP. Well, they claim they were going to shoot Pelosi's plane out of the sky if she tried to land in Taiwan and visit Taiwan. That has come to pass, thankfully. I don't think anyone wants to see Pelosi's plane get shot down. That's not a nice thing to do. And Kissinger, he went to China and he basically saw a massive population there and cheap labor. And they planned that back in the 70s. And ever since then, the West has been pumping, first it was millions, then it became billions, and now it's trillions into the Chinese market. And all these companies, Apple's a perfect example. Apple just recently, I think it was reported a few years after, but I think around 2015, around there, Apple pumped like 170 billion. Some astronomical number. It was at least 70 billion. It might have been over 100 billion. That they basically bribed the CCP to gain access to their markets. That's how desperate Apple is. They've saturated the rest of the world. There's only so much they can grow now. They completely saturated the U.S., North America, and Europe. And China's the biggest market now. And that is going to come back to haunt Apple, because China is now closing the doors to foreign companies' access. But we'll see. We see long term what happens with that. But it all started with Kissinger.
And of course, who controls the money controls the world. So food, energy, money. Food, energy, money. Keep those three in mind. We talk about those all the time. Those are the attack vectors. But what I want to do today is I want to get a historical look, show you exactly what's going on today, and then we'll compare that to history. It's going to be fun. I know you guys love it when I give you these history lessons. At least you used to anyway. Leave me a comment. Let me know. Do you love these historical comparisons? Should I do more of them? They're a lot of work to dig up. While you're at it, leaving that comment, you can click on that like button so more people see these videos, and hit that subscribe button while you're at it as well. Oh, and the bell notification, because that pesky algorithm sometimes like to shadow ban me. So you want to know when I put videos out. All right, so let's first look at this big case study I've been talking about quite a bit. We're talking about Sri Lanka. It's been all over the news. I've talked about it extensively. Well, it's not over mainstream news. Depends on where you get your news from. But what happened is in 2018, not that long ago, 4 years ago, of course, the World Economic Forum, our good old buddy Klaus Schwab and friends, they planned to get Sri Lanka to net zero emissions by 2050. Now, we could also plan to give everybody a unicorn in their backyard and have a tree that grows Skittles, and we could plan for lots of things. Doesn't mean those things could ever become true. And that's basically where we're at. There's no such thing as net zero. There's like greenwashing. That's a whole nother topic for another video. If you want, drop me a comment. We'll do something about that. But they had this great plan. By 2050, we're going to make it net zero. We saw the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka goes out bragging. This is on the World Economic Forum website. It says, "This is how I will make my country rich by 2025. Of course, the country has fallen. The country is completely overran. We'll talk about that. So didn't really work out too well. Well, what happened is that in 2021, the farmers were banned from using fertilizer to grow food. Now, there's a lot to this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in this. You can just go do research on your own if you want. They banned the use of chemical fertilizers, which sounds pretty good.
So that's already happened now with the Dutch, and Trudeau is already working behind the scenes to do the same reductions in Canada, which are going to be catastrophic. There might be time for another convoy of some kind in Canada.
Good. I like to eat organic. The problem is when you centrally plan it and you mandate it and you control it rather than letting the free market do its thing. And so they banned it, said, nope, you can't do that anymore. The problem is everybody needed it to grow food. And so when you don't have fertilizer to grow food, guess what happens? That's right, you get no food. That's exactly what happens. We can see that's exactly what happened. And the farmers were so mad, they basically gave up. Sri Lanka faces a quote-unquote man-made food crisis, and the farmers stopped planting. Why would they plant? They can't make any money, they can't produce any food, so let's not even bother. And of course, that's exactly what happened. So then, the same year, 2021, what do you think happened? A 35% drop. I have it right here, right from Wikipedia. I'd love to give you the receipt so you know I'm not just making stuff up. This is a 35% drop in fruit and vegetables, 40% drop in paddy production. We had.
So there are, you've done past streams, especially on the Canuck and Yankee show, about how farming is coming up in the cities. You can farm on rooftops. You can create gardens on the side of buildings to cool off cities. There's so much that you can do. Obviously, take a long time for it to actually be, be able to produce enough food. But it's a step in the right direction. What they did in Sri Lanka is apocalyptic. We're talking an entire country collapse. Because how severe they did that. So where there needs to be just more, globalism is gone. We need to produce food regionally everywhere around the world. The technology is there. You can grow food indoors. Yes, it takes money. That's the big thing. It takes money. You have to have the technology. So it's going to be very difficult for developing countries to do that. We'll have to see long term. Sri Lanka is going to be bailed out. It has to be bailed out, or otherwise their people are going to starve. So
That was between 20 and 2021. And then we had a 50% decrease in their tea, and they make tea, which is their main export. So now they don't have an export product, and guess what happens? They don't have any money. You don't have any money, you can't buy any more food or more energy. Of course, guess what happens when people don't eat? Now, people can take a lot of abuse, but when you can't afford to eat or feed your family, all bets are off, and that's exactly what happened. The people overran the palace, the Prime Minister Palace, stormed it, swam in their pool. That's what well, I'm not gonna say the words. I'm on YouTube. I always have to censor myself. It's not fun. All right, now, the problem is that these bad ideas that have been tried throughout history, we're gonna go back in history in a minute, these bad ideas that just failed spectacularly in Sri Lanka are only spreading. You would think it would be like, well, that didn't work so well. We should probably not do that again. But no, instead, let's try it more places because maybe we just didn't get it right. And so we see now in Holland, I've been reporting on this if you've been watching my channel. In Holland, the Dutch have a very similar plan. What they want to do is reduce emissions, guess what, sort of the same way, by 50%. By 2030. The Dutch government unveiled its goals on Friday, mandating reductions of up to 70%, in many places as high as 95%, in others in a bid to protect nature. So they want to kill people to save nature, apparently. So they want to reduce by 70 to 95%. Of course, we can see that that is not, well, it's having about the same results as in Sri Lanka. A drastic plan to reduce emissions anger farmers. The government wants to reduce emissions by 50% by 2030. The same thing. You can see the farmers in the streets protesting because when you can't feed your family and you can't eat, you're going to be very angry. And that's exactly what's happening. Now we can see it happened in Holland. It happened with the farmers there. And then, of course, Trudeau in Canada, of course, he wants to try it as well. So now he's trying the same thing. Trudeau spars with farmers on climate. Canada wants to cut fertilizer emissions. Farmers say it could what? Result in less food. Of course it will. And if you have less food, what happens? People don't eat.
there's also Bill Gates now has become the largest landowner of farmland in the United States. And people are starting to, ask questions. I believe, I can't remember if it was North Dakota or South Dakota. It was one of the Dakotas. A politician is getting involved. They were trying to stop one of Gates's recent purchases of farmland up there, and they weren't able to. And there may even be talks of having Gates come speak to Congress on what he's going to do with all this farmland. Now, he's made some comments that he may lease it back to farmers. We're then just back to the master-slave concept, if that's part of his plan for some of this farmland. I couldn't see him leasing all the farmland. It appears he's going to keep a lot of that farmland and not do anything with it so that he can control the food supply. This is how people and countries are controlled in this new world order.
And if people don't eat, what happens? Well, you've already seen the pictures. You already know the answer to that. But I'm going to show you how bad it can get. We have right here, less fertilizer equals less food. Canadian provinces protest Trudeau's fertilizer reduction targets. It says Canada plans to reduce 30% of its usage by 2030 to what? Meet climate targets. Okay, so you're starting to get the picture. Now, what's crazy about this to me is that at a time when the UN, this is actually from the World Health Organization, the WHO, per the WHO, global hunger continues to rise. 821 million people are hungry. 821, almost a billion. There's about 7.8 billion people in the world. Almost 1 out of 8 people are starving right now, but yet they want to reduce the food supply in Sri Lanka by 50%, reduce the food supply in Holland, which is one of the major exporters to Europe, reduce the food supply in Canada. Are you starting to get the picture? 1 billion people are starving per the WHO, and yet here we are reducing food. All right, now, Remember this slide? We haven't done this for a while. Let's go back in time. Let's go back in history to see when these exact same policies were implemented and exactly what happened. Like I said, those that don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Hell, maybe someone will share this with one of our leaders. All right, let's go. All right, so for the first stop in history, we're not going that far back. We are going back a little less than 100 years ago. This is recent. This isn't ancient history. We're talking about the 30s and the 40s, all right? Not that long ago. In the Soviet Union, what happened? Well, under Stalin, he had this great idea to centrally plan. He was going to dictate how tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people live their life. A complex system. We'll come back to that topic in a second. So Stalin, by himself, central planning, had a great idea. A 5-year, remember that word, or that number, 5-year plan to industrialize the nation. That was in 1927. So he wants to industrialize. He wants to get everybody from the farms and get them to be more productive, right? Okay, so what is he going to do? He's going to nationalize the farmland, nationalize it. What does that mean? Take it over. That means instead of having independent people run it, decentralized, it would be centrally planned. The government would just own it and they would control the means of production. Similar to what happened with Venezuela with the oil industry, similar to what President Biden keeps threatening to do with our energy industry in the United States. Remember that. Okay, so they nationalized the farmland. Now, in order to nationalize that, they had to take over the farmland. They had to take over the food. Now, socialism always leads to violence, always. Always, 100% of the time. The reason why is because when they go to take your farm, to take your factory, to take your house, some people aren't going to like that. And so it leads to violence. It's the only way, and so they did. They went and confiscated grain from the farmers at gunpoint. We're taking your land, we're taking your farm, and we're taking your grain. How you like that? Well, over 300,000 farmers protested, of course, and were deported. You're out of here. We don't want to hear it. We don't want anyone to hear what we've done to you. Okay. Now we can see this is the 5-year plan that Stalin had. His great idea, the 5-year plan. Objectives were to rapidly.
Let me see what else he's covering. Anyway, I saw the link you posted on Solana. You know, we'll actually. It's a quick video. I'll get it loaded up here.
Right now, Solana is the...
Is this happen right now? Yeah, August 2nd. All right. I want to see what else he covers here. So he covers Soviet. He's going to cover China. What else does he cover here? Yeah, he's going to cover Mao also. Mao did same thing with the Great Leap Forward. Let's see what else. But it's basically, it's obvious what he's saying here. I mean, this is basically Soviets, and under Mao in China, they did the same thing that the WEF is trying to do with the climate hysteria, try to control farming, but not just on a country level. They're trying to do this worldwide, so this is unprecedented. I'll finish up with this Mark Moss video, and we're going to do this quick video that anyone posted about Solana hack, and then I'm going to do another Mark Moss video on Russia's war just forced a global energy reset. So we'll do that one after this quick 3-minute video on Solana being hacked. This was posted, doesn't have a time, but it's posted today. I'll check this guy out, subscribe to him.
Experiencing an ecosystem-wide hack or some kind of major phishing event that's affecting huge numbers of wallets. We're seeing millions of dollars drained out of wallets. Particularly, we're seeing Phantom wallet users and Slope wallet users being affected. but we're seeing huge outflows from wallets. Some wallets
So Solana is down almost 4%. I'm going to check my Phantom wallet just to be on the safe side.
that haven't even been active in like 6 months' time being affected by this hack. So in this video, I just want to let you know, of course, that this hack is going on, but also how to keep yourself safe if your wallet has not yet been hacked. If you're worried about your funds being drained out of your wallet, well, here are 3 simple steps that you can take to try to protect your funds. The first step, move your crypto over to a damn hardware wallet, man. I know we talk about this all the time, but get yourself one of these if you have not got one yet. Obviously, if you don't have one right now, that's problematic, but you should always have one of these. If you're a cryptocurrency investor, get yourself a damn hardware wallet. Now, you might say, well, Lark, that's great for the people who already have one, but I don't have one. What am I going to do? Well, that's the second option. Move your crypto to a centralized exchange. Send it to Binance, wherever else, while you wait for all this to blow over and we get some more answers on exactly what is happening in the Solana ecosystem right now. So if you have like, I don't know, let's say $10,000 in Sol sitting on your wallet, get that off there, man. You don't want to take the chance with this going on right now that your funds could get drained off of your wallet. Now, some of your low cap altcoins or NFTs, there might not be anywhere for those to go in this situation, but at least if you can save most of your funds, that's something to consider, right? And the third option is to go into your Phantom wallet and revoke access to all trusted apps. You can see on the screen here, we've got that showing how you can do that right now. But in the event that this is some kind of an exploit via one of the major apps, like let's say Radium or Orca or something like this, if it is such a situation, then revoking access may prevent your funds from being drained. We don't know exactly what the exploit is yet, but this is just another option you can take to protect yourself. But getting your funds off of your hot wallet, your Phantom wallet, your Slope wallet, whatever it might be, is a much more definitive approach to protecting your funds. Because remember, with a hardware wallet, they can only move your funds if they have access to the wallet. At an exchange, they have to hack your exchange account to be able to move that stuff. So it's much safer at this moment than keeping it on a hot wallet on the network. Anyway, I hope that you have not been affected by this hack, or that if you're seeing this message, you're able to take action before things get worse. Maybe this all blows over very quickly, but I just want to let you know about this situation real quick in this video. Thanks so much for watching, and peace out till next time.
Yeah, I've got a little bit in my Phantom wallet. It's not that much, but I'm going to move the rest of it. I'm going to keep those tokens that you sent me over anywhere. There was Crypto Cavemans. I have some Solana X. I think, yeah, Wolfcoin. You sent me some Wolfcoin. 666 Wolfcoin. I'll just keep those on there. I don't know where I don't know if I can move these the Wolfcoin. It's not that much anyway, but I want to see if I can get any kind of technical analysis of the hack and how they did the hack. So I'll just do August 2nd. CoinMarket bag. That's February 11th. This is February 22nd. Does CoinDesk have anything on it? Actually, I wanted that article there. Give me a second here. Duplicate this. Solana wallets targeted in latest multi-million-dollar hack. My Restream chat just the hell is going on? Maybe I'm getting hacked right now. Give me a second here. Restream chat just bombed on me. Solana wallets targeted in latest multi-million-dollar hack. The exploit appears to be impacting users of internet-connected hot wallets. Anywhere it says My wallet is fine. I restricted access and settings so as to be safe. According to Twitter, there were roughly 5,000 wallets that got hacked within the past hour. If you restrict access and settings, you should be fine. You probably haven't even connected to other sites. You'll be fine. I haven't done a ton of connectivity in my Phantom wallet. I'm going to take a look. Open support, lock wallet. I'm going to actually lock the wallet, see what that does. Just give me a sec here. I don't know if that... anyway, there's a lock wallet option. Do you know exactly what that does? But I haven't done a lot of connectivity with my Phantom wallet. It should be fine. But moving forward with this CoinDesk article, so the exploit is targeting hot wallets. The Solana ecosystem appears to be victim of the crypto's latest exploit, with users reporting that their funds have been drained without their knowledge from major internet-connected hot wallets, including Phantom, Slope, and Trust Wallet. Several Solana addresses have been linked to the attack so far. Are they actually listing the addresses? So Mystery Exploiter 1's account, this is the actual account that they have linked in the article. 3.6 million USD. So a balance of 25,000 Solana. I just check out one other's. Check out this one. This is another account that's exploiting. Mysterious Exploiter 4's account. It has $254,000 worth of Solana. 4,187. So this is all on the blockchain. Whatever, this attack is all recorded on the blockchain. I'm not sure what Solana is going to do about this. Neoxa, I covered on a past stream, is a gaming crypto token. They got hacked recently. Double spend attack. They created fake Neoxa and then sold it on the exchanges. And then Neoxa had to reimburse the markets, the exchanges, for that Neoxa. So what is Solana going to do in this case? So Alex Stokes, a researcher at the... Oh, this is the article I wanted to go over. Hold on, I just want to back up. So I want to get back to the Solana one. Several Solana addresses have been linked to the attack. They list them here. I'll put this in the chat. So they've drained at least 5 million worth of SOL. We are evaluating the incident impacting Solana wallets and are working closely with the other teams in the ecosystem to get to the bottom of this. We will issue an update once we gather more information. Some users initially suspected the hack could be related to transaction and Magic eating a Solana-based non-fungible token. The source of the exploit has yet to be confirmed. It is unclear at this point whether the vulnerability is limited only to Solana blockchain. A Trust Wallet and Slope Wallet user reported losing USDC on both Solana and Ethereum. So we'll see what the further fallout is from this. And I'm going to do a Mark Moss. Actually, since we're back on crypto, I'm just going to do a quick article from Ethereum. So the Ethereum is supposed to go proof of stake, they're saying a somewhat hard date. They keep saying they're going to move to proof of stake, and it keeps getting delayed. And now we're hearing Ethereum developers address potential glitch ahead of the merge. September 19th was the date. This is going to have a really big impact. I'm obviously following this intensely because I want to pick up some more GPUs cheap. And Nvidia may be a perfect storm may be brewing for Nvidia, because if Ethereum does go proof of stake in the September area, say in the fall, that's right when Nvidia wants to release their 4,000 or are expected to release their 4,000 series of GPUs. AMD is going to go ahead and release their 7,000 series. So Nvidia is going to be way behind the ball if they don't release theirs. And on top of that, if you can no longer mine Ethereum with GPUs, a massive flood of GPUs are probably going to hit the market and bring prices even farther down for NVIDIA 3000 series cards. And NVIDIA they're the biggest price gouger in GPU market. I mean, really, we only have AMD and NVIDIA, but NVIDIA is always pushing prices further and further up. So if they try to release the 4000 series cards at a expensive price point, no one's going to buy them. So I would think NVIDIA, they're going to release 4000 series because they have to, because AMD is going to be releasing 7000 series, but there's going to be very limited supply, a paper launch, very hard to get, and they're probably still going to be around the prices. Like the 4090 is probably going to go for $2,000. The 4080, I would imagine they're going to have to keep under 1,000. No one's going to buy it, especially if Ethereum goes proof of stake. The market will be flooded. Prices will go way down. I'm actually hoping that does happen, because I think NVIDIA needs to be taught a lesson. In price gouging, this is what happens when you price gouge. You know, you can't time the markets. You can't control everything. So let's hope that happens. But getting back to the CoinDesk Ethereum article, during Ethereum's 90-second consensus layer call, developers discussed some solutions to a potential wrinkle in the smooth execution. I would not call it a smooth execution, but anyway, the smooth execution of the network's impending merge when Ethereum moves from its current proof of work, or POW, protocol to the beacon chain, proof of stake, POS blockchain. Stokes, a researcher at the Ethereum Foundation, raised concerns over a possible MEV boost failure. The vulnerability could affect the way that relay operators, which are intermediaries between block builders and validators, communicate with each other as a result. So you've got block builders, you've got validators that verify the information on the Ethereum blockchain. You also got delegators. That's the whole new system that Ethereum is pushing out. Stokes is saying that this complication should have no effect on the timeline of the merge. What is a MEV boost? It is an important component of a maximal extractable value for Ethereum. MEV refers to the income that miners under POW and block builders and validators under POS receive as a result of inserting or reordering of transactions within a block. The MEV boost, which is designed to avoid MEV centralization, is a middleware component that allows validators to request blocks from a network of builders. After the merge, those interacting with the network will send their transactions over the blockchain to block builders. The MEV boost feature will then collect these blocks and offer them to validators. Validators will select and propose the most profitable blocks to the Ethereum network. If there is a malfunction in the MEV boost, it will disrupt the entire POS blockchain. A glitch where the relay operator would fail to release a block at the right moment. Then a series of blocks from validators running the MEV boost could be missed. That would happen if the validator fails to propose a block because of a relay that didn't have a way of signaling malicious behaviors to validators. The next set of validators would then be compromised, and if they were to propose a block that has dealt with the malicious relay, the same issue would continue on, preventing the production of blocks indefinitely. So a proposal to fix the issue is the possibility of introducing a circuit breaker. This could be as simple as writing code that tells the validator to automatically turn off if there are missed blocks. This would be a risky move because validators could deliberately withhold blocks from being proposed. There is an incentive to do that, and by duping other validators, a person can monopolize MEV earnings. So Ethereum is in a real shaky transition area here. Something like this or additional exploits happening while the merge takes place would be pretty devastating to Ethereum. It's all up in the air. We'll see what happens, but I really think it's best that Ethereum just moves to proof of stake. I'm so tired of hearing about it, and people are starting to move away from Ethereum. So if they continue to delay it, it's just going to continue to weaken it as other competitors like Cardano and Solana gain more and more market share. So we'll see. All right, I'm going to do one more video, Mark Moss video. I've been streaming for about an hour and a half. And I have to find the video, so this is posted yesterday, August 1st. Russia's war just forced a global energy reset. So we're going to do a little bit of this. And if you're in the chat, you have something you want me to show on the stream, let me know. I'll keep the stream going. If you got something good, just let me know in the chat. And I'm going to do a little bit of this video from Mark Moss.
Russia's war just forced a global energy reset. Watch out. Now, there's been a lot of talk about what's going on with the Russia war, the sanctions that are happening, and the shortages of supplies that it is causing. But what a lot of people haven't realized is some of the things that were forced into action is resetting the entire global energy system that we have today. Not just where we source our products, but what type of energy we use. Now, there's been a lot of things that have happened in the last week that unless you're really paying attention with the magnifying glass, you have not caught. But don't worry, I got them for you. So in this video, we're going to break down what exactly we're looking at with this Russian energy reset, exactly what's transpired just in the last several days, and what this new trend is that's about to emerge, and how you can play it. So let's go. All right, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, my name is Mark Moss, and I make these videos to change the way you think about money because almost everything you've learned is wrong. And sometimes it's hard to see all the little details that are happening and then realize where things are going with this information. And so I want to break this down, try to help make these complex subjects very easy for you to understand. And so I want to talk about this energy reset, a global energy reset that's being forced on the world because of what's happening in Russia, and hardly anyone is noticing what is going on. All right, so Russia has massive leverage in this war. Now, there's a lot of opinions, but I don't think you can really dispute this. They provide about 25% of the oil that Europe needs, about 25%. You can't just reduce your energy supply by 25%. They produce over 1/3 of the gas that Europe needs. It's a big amount, and we hear a lot of tough talk. They're going to wean themselves off, maybe over the next decade, something like that, but they need it, all right? We've seen 34% of uranium globally. And so Russia has a lot of leverage over the world. You could have a plan to get yourself off of it, but you can't get off of it very quickly. And that is part of what we're seeing. All right, now, a lot of the problems that's happened, or I should say a lot of the problems that are happened because of the leverage that Russia has, are self-imposed problems. The nations have caused these problems to themselves. They've done this in themselves. They've proverbially shot themselves in the foot. All right, I love this quote from William Shatner, Captain Kirk, for my old enough people to know Star Trek. He said that you might as well aim high. Why shoot yourself in the foot when you can shoot yourself in the head? Well, that's exactly what these leaders have done with their policies. And so we see in Europe, the European Union was energy independent. They used to be energy independent. They used to have plenty of energy all the way through the 70s. The UK and the Netherlands produced massive amounts of energy. They didn't depend on anybody else. But they decided to shoot themselves in the foot and then go up to the head. 1993, in the treaty, the EU, the European Union, was finally formed. When the European Union was finally formed, the nations lost their sovereignty. They lost their ability to be able to manage themselves, and now they had to all think together collectively. Collective thinking, it's always a problem. In 2011, it got worse. They kept moving the gun higher and higher and higher. 2011, they passed the Atomic Energy Act, which means well, we can't have nuclear. So that's probably pretty dangerous and we wouldn't want that. So let's just go ahead and get rid of all nuclear. So let's stop getting our own energy out of the ground. Let's shut down all our nuclear. What could go wrong? Well, depending on Russia, that could go wrong, and it did. Now, we saw in 2020, they continued. They finally had to go up to the head here, and the European Union passed what they called the quote-unquote Green New Deal, which, of course, the Green New Deal is what's hamstringing the entire world. Let's reduce our emissions by 55% by the year 2030. Yeah, good luck. And so let's reduce our emissions. Let's not get any of our own energy, but we'll have other people do it for us. And so we all still live in the same world, so we're all still in the same atmosphere. Never mind those pesky details, right? Okay, then we have ESG. We talk about it a lot, environmental social governance. It's basically in a way to attack companies and to force them to comply. It's forced compliance. And we've seen this over and over. I don't need to pull up every single chart on this. We know that Biden's been attacking fossil fuels. His very first day in office, the very most important thing by executive order was to shut down pipelines, shut down oil gas leases. It's been a nonstop attack on oil. Now he's released all of our oil out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Of course, I don't have to explain it to you. Germany, they've been doing it. They've shut down all their nuclear reactors, of course, part of that atomic plan. We can see here a list of all these reactors they've been shutting down since 2011, 2015, 21. They keep shutting them down, continue to shut down more and more of their energy. We can see everybody thinks there's this wind and solar that's going to save the world. So far, it hasn't. In California, we've shut down our energy. We're going to replace it with renewable, but we haven't done it yet. In Germany, we're going to shut down all our nuclear. We're going to replace it with wind and solar, but here it doesn't work. In the UK, we're going to shut down our natural gas. We're going to replace it with wind and solar. Oh, who would have guessed we had like a low wind year this year and we didn't produce enough energy? Well, some people could have predicted it. Here's a chart from Peter Zion. He's somebody I just recently interviewed. If you haven't watched that interview I did with Peter Zion, you should go check it out right here. It's a very interesting thesis he has. But this chart right here shows the world, this is the entire world, and it shows which parts of the world will work with wind. The wind is the blue parts. And which will work with solar, which is the green parts. All right. Now the bright green here is what's ideal for wind and solar. And then it's within 1,000 miles of a major city. So if you can go generate wind or solar energy, but it's nowhere near people live, it doesn't really matter because you can't really transport that electricity. And what you see when you look at this chart is that most of the world won't really work with wind and solar. There's not enough sun throughout the year. There's not enough wind throughout the year. So we have a little bit here in Southern Africa, a little bit here in South America. The United States is looking pretty good, and Mexico. Mexico and Western United States is really good for solar. Midwest is good for wind, but Europe over here, not looking so good, is it? As a matter of fact, it doesn't look like solar is going to do very good at all for Europe. Of course, if you've been to Europe, you know that. They don't see a lot of sun. They don't have very much wind either. So it's going to be a problem. So wind and solar is not going to work. All right. So sometimes in the winds of change, we find our direction. They say that necessity is the mother of invention. And so when you find yourself in a situation that you've imposed on yourself where you have no energy because you've shut it all down, now you're completely dependent on Russia, and now this war has started, now we have to sanction Russia. We want to stop Russia, but we can't because we need them. And what are we going to do? Well, we need to find another way. And that's why this Russian war really reset the entire global energy. And unless you've been paying close attention, you haven't seen this. All right, so in Europe, in Europe, they've decided, shoot, we better do something. Now, France has really been lighting the way. France is one of the nations in Europe, the countries in Europe, that has really stayed true, and it's really helped, I think, out the world in this instance, and they've pushed on with their nuclear program. So we can see our nuclear power in France. France derives 70% of its electricity, 70% of its electricity from nuclear energy due to long-standing policy based on energy security. Who would have thought a nation should think about things like energy security? I played a video before of Trump going to Germany in 2018 and warning them, hey, look, you're going to put yourself completely in the hands of Russia, and that could go very bad. And they laughed in the video I played. But France cared about it. They cared about, quote unquote, energy security. In February of 2022, France announced plans to build 6 new reactors. So they already derive 70% of their energy from nuclear. Now they're building more, 6 new reactors, and to consider building a further 8. So they're going for it. That's about 14 more reactors. France is the world's largest net exporter. Let me say that again. The world's largest net exporter of electricity. Not of oil, not of natural gas, of electricity. They don't produce oil and natural gas. Where do they get all the electricity? Oh yeah, from nuclear. When the UK...
I mean, France is going to be in good shape. They're one of the few countries... They're probably the only country in Europe that's, that has nuclear reactors like that. Germany got rid of all of theirs. And the story's pretty much the same around the rest of Europe. I'm even hearing stories, and I need to do some research on it, but like Spain is getting to the point where their water, certain of their utilities are getting taken over by the Chinese Communist Party. Taking over. It's a resource war. China definitely is winning. I mean, China's doing that all through the continent of Africa with resources, trying to get ports, access to ports with 100-year leases when these countries can't pay their debt. And they're even doing stuff like that in Europe. And here in the U.S., we really should be, to keep our grid strong and healthy, we need 2 or 3 nuclear plants to come online. I don't think they'll do it, but we have to do something. Maybe we can get to the point of some type of better nuclear fusion in general.
UK, when Germany shuts down all their natural gas and shuts down all their nuclear, where do they get their electricity? Oh yeah, they buy it from France. You see how that works? And they get it at the largest net exporter of electricity due to its very low cost of generation. Why so low? Oh yeah, 70%, 70% from nuclear. They gain over $3 billion per year from selling their nuclear, and of course you can see how drastic that's gone up. Now, the tides are changing. This is what I want to talk about in this video. Things are changing. In the last week, a lot of movements happened. Okay, this is just a few weeks ago. We saw the European Union Parliament backs labeling gas and nuclear investments as green. Now, this is a really big deal because of ESG. Under ESG, none of these projects can get any money. Mark Carney says these companies that don't comply with ESG will be, quote unquote, economic roadkill. There will be no money, no investments for them. But the EU Parliament has now said these are green, which means now they can get investment, which means now we can start to advance this. This is a very big deal. It says it's likely to become law, labeling investments in gas and nuclear power plants as climate friendly, throwing out an attempt to block the law. No, we're not blocking this. We're going to block the law. We're going to let it happen. It says unless 20 of 27 member states decide to oppose the move, which is seen as very unlikely. All right, so the European Union Parliament did it. And now, even in Germany, where they've been shutting down all their own nuclear power plants, Germany says it now may leave its final 3 nuclear energy plants running. You see the pivot. You see the shift. Everyone's waiting for the Fed to pivot. We're seeing a global pivot. Russia has forced an energy transition. It's now going to leave its 3 energy plants running. Why? because no more gas from Putin. They don't want to be beholden to Putin. They're worried about their energy security, as they should be. All right, now what about the United States? Well, this is where things get really interesting. Just this week, as of a day or two from the time of this recording, U.S. policy is changing, and it is changing rapidly. All right, what am I talking about? The Energy Secretary, who I am no fan of. I'm talking about Grantham. She's pretty clueless. However, she seems to be pro-nuclear. Biden's administration wants to focus on the uranium reserves. Of course, you need uranium for nuclear energy. It says here, the Biden administration will take a step toward establishing a reserve for uranium and boost uranium mining. All right, you see what's happening here. They're going to take a step to establishing reserves. They want to start putting that into reserve so we have that. Why? For security, of course. We can see here, this is very interesting right here. The Energy Department, per the AP News, this was as of July 27th, a day or two ago. The Energy Department selects Idaho for nuclear test reactor. This is very interesting. New development, new testing, new funding. Why is there new funding? Because of the green.
When you take a look here in the United States, what's happening in Lake Mead, Nevada area, there's even there's a Las Vegas, obviously, in Nevada. They're also experiencing severe droughts in Las Vegas, New Mexico, which is a much smaller Las Vegas city. But if that continues, I mean, that whole drought issue seems to be just a battle between all these states for water usage, water usage for crops. California's the biggest one. I mean, they're just massive. They need massive amounts of water for avocados and everything else that they grow. They grow an enormous amount of food in California. And it looks like areas like Las Vegas, Nevada, some other areas are just going to be left without water. And I think it's basically going to be a forced migration. People are just going to move. They're going to move to Texas, what have you, because I don't think the federal government's going to try to step in and figure out the drought issues there. But Lake Mead, Lake Powell, the Colorado River has been decimated. Colorado River used to feed a lot of these lakes. It's no longer feeding these lakes. We're looking at Deadpool soon. And I think there's going to be even more of a migration out there. But my point is that areas around there are not, Las Vegas is heavily populated, but there could be even less people there in the next 5 to 10 years. So there's going to be even larger swaths out west where there's nobody around and perfect for nuclear power.
Green labeling. So now there's new money. There's going to be new technologies going into it. And what kind of new technologies are we looking at? I'm glad you asked. We can see here it says that in Idaho they have a proposed nuclear test reactor to dramatically reduce the time needed to develop nuclear fuel, so they could spin these up way faster. Nuclear reactors that could help reduce global warming. You see that? See how they're shifting the perspective, sort of like how they changed the definition of what a recession is. Now they're changing the definition of nuclear. And they say now nuclear reactors could actually help reduce global warming, which of course is the goal. That's per the U.S. Department of Energy. It says this VTR, this is the new type of reactor they want to test, is a sodium-cooled fast test reactor. So it's new technology, it's a good thing, progress. The test reactor could help lead to new nuclear reactors and reduce the use of fossil fuels blamed for global warming. So fossil fuels are to blame. Let's get nuclear, which will reduce global warming. Do you see the shift that's happening here? It's important to understand. Now, what else is important to understand about this shift? Well, we can see as the U.S. looks to nuclear power, so now we can see that it's there. These are all just from the last several weeks. The problem is the sourcing. Where do we get our uranium from? Because we don't want to be stuck buying it all from Russia again. That's a problem. As a matter of fact, it says right here, the Biden administration continues to push for green energy, but experts warn us that without a reliable domestic supply of uranium, U.S. could find itself beholden to Russia. just like Germany is. We don't want that to happen. If we're going to start going to nuclear to fight climate change, which that's the new agenda because now it's green, well, we need to source uranium domestically because we don't want to be beholden to Russia, which sounds like a pretty good idea to me. And then we see this article right here. The U.S. seeks $4.5 billion for uranium. The uranium purchases from U.S. producers. All right.
All right, I'm going to finish up with this Mark Moss video. I'm going to do one more from Redacted on YouTube. I've been watching them recently. And it's going to cover a bunch of things. The new coof to be watching, otherwise known as, am I allowed to say monkeypox on a live stream? Or am I going to get banned for that? But we're going to get this loaded up. This main guy.
Let's dive into the big story of the day, which of course is Nancy Pelosi.
I think this guy like streams out of his house. That's his wife. And he used to be on Fox News, I believe. Anyway, they do decent stuff. They're going to be going over a few things. Pelosi in Taiwan, NATO versus Syria, farmer revolts, monkeypox emergency. I'm going to do a little bit of this. Probably call it a stream. But this is Redacted on SnoozeTube. China prepares for invasion of Taiwan as warships surround Pelosi. So Pelosi is surrounded by warships. Wow. Redacted. And it's Clayton Morris. That is his name. Clayton Morris.
Under the cloak of darkness, landing in Taipei, Taiwan, under the cloak of darkness at Taipei Airport. Now, what was interesting about this arrival is that she was flying in there, they had camouflaged anti-aircraft defense missiles under camouflage that they pulled off to make sure that she was protected. They will not talk about the landing, how many other military aircraft were circling and supporting her upon landing, but hundreds of thousands of people watched her plane on this flight radar app, Flight Radar 24.
Which is just the strangest turn of events, right? Because if people can see your flight path live, then why not confirm that you were going there hours before you take off, right?
And why leave it off of your itinerary?
Why so cagey about it and then just show up? Because we can see you.
And they know it. Chinese military, Chinese intelligence, they know you're coming.
Right.
Right. This isn't a mystery to them,
and she's
posing
for all sorts of photo opportunities with politicians in Taiwan. Just moments ago, as soon as she got off the plane, she posted a tweet saying, "Our visit reiterates that America stands with Taiwan, a robust, vibrant democracy, and our important partner in the Indo-Pacific," which I guess, we've been trying to figure out. We've had this conversation for weeks now. Why is she going there? Mm-hmm. I guess.
Can you find? I mean, if anyone knows in our chat room, please let us know in the comments below. Why in the hell would Nancy Pelosi go to Taiwan?
For her Insta. I mean, basically, that's why all of us travel, right? Is to put it on our social media.
I guess taking selfies at the Grand Canyon. But I mean, President Biden said this is not a good idea. We should not do this.
The military
said we should not do this. You should not be doing this. Unbelievably though, hundreds of thousands of people watching this flight tracker app this afternoon brought this servers almost to a screeching halt because so many people were watching.
Yeah. With Nancy Pelosi going to Taiwan, it puts all the attention on her. It makes her seem like a freedom fighter for, her support for Taiwan. She has gone to Tiananmen Square in China and way back, I think it was 15 years ago, around there, protesting Tiananmen Square, things along those lines. She has a history of doing stuff like this, but at the same time, her husband was recently arrested, or at least, I don't think they did anything, but he did get pulled over for DUI. Nothing's going to come of it, but there's that and her long years of insider trading, and that takes the spotlight off that. I definitely think that's one of the big things. And also, this is her last hurrah. I don't think she's going to be speaker for much longer. I think after the midterms, she's gone. Unless there's some kind of weirdness going on in the election process, or something just absolutely bizarre happens, and the Democrats win out and keep the House and maybe even build seats, take seats in the Senate. That's extremely unlikely, but midterms come and Democrats get hit pretty hard. She's going out. She's already stated that, and she's already on her last leg. I mean, she can barely speak at this point. People don't know if she's under the influence of alcohol or if it's dementia or something. She's not doing well. She can't even complete sentences. She can't even communicate anymore. It really would not be good for her to continue. So this is like her last little powwow where she almost starts World War III and she's visiting Taiwan.
Watching this one airplane like landing there when she in the middle of the night, by the way. And so we actually have an update because right now in the middle of the night now, some breaking news just a few minutes ago is that in fact the ambassador, my Safari is not coming up here, the ambassador for the middle of the night local time, but China has announced that the foreign ministry has summoned the U.S. ambassador to China, Nicholas Burns, in order to protest Pelosi's landing in Taiwan. This happened just moments ago, so everyone's asleep mostly, but not, where she's due with Tsai Ing-wen in the morning. So going to meet with the Taiwanese president in the morning, and they are upset about this. According to the readout, this is a state-run alert that just came through. China's vice foreign minister, Xi Feng, summoned U.S. Ambassador of China Nicholas Burns overnight to protest the arrival of Nancy Pelosi to Taiwan.
I'm not understanding what you're saying. Is that China has called the American ambassador that is currently in China and said, what? You got to get out? Or
we're not, that the Chinese side will not sit idly by, is what they say. So again, the question is now.
What do you mean by called up?
This is not, you're saying me saying this. This is not me. I'm giving you the readout from the China foreign minister. This is not me saying this.
Okay, but I'm just asking you to clarify since I haven't seen it. So called up, like called on the phone and said, I'm pissed about this, or called them and said, you need to leave the embassy.
Let me read this again.
Do it.
You guys tell me what you think. But this is a readout from moments ago. In the middle of the night local time, China has announced the foreign ministry has summoned the U.S. ambassador to China, Nicholas Burns. They're asking him, the United States ambassador to China, right, Nicholas Burns from the U.S., summoned him to, I don't know, either on the phone or to the office of Xi Jinping, I don't know, in Beijing.
It's a you got some splaining to do type phone call
and
that you don't want from the Chinese
president. Can you imagine, like, Mr. President, what do I say? I know you didn't want her going to Taiwan, Mr. President. She's here. How do we respond? This is what's really weird about this whole situation right now is that you have this back and forth between the White House, basically, and the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi. So you have two different avenues unfolding in front of us right now because you have the White House saying, President Biden last week saying, this is not a good idea. The military saying this is not a good idea. And then you have Nancy Pelosi saying, we're going to go anyway and do this.
And Poppy in the chat makes a good point. This is all costing U.S. taxpayers, right? Because we have to reinforce military support in that region. Although Kamala Harris told us recently we're already doing that. So, okay,
Brian Dodson in our chat says, old news. This literally just happened like a few moments ago. This is not old news. Nancy Pelosi just landed in Taipei. And what's not old news is the protests that unfolded as a result of it as well. So we'll get to those protests in a minute. But Taiwan welcoming, they put out the welcome, they rolled out a bit of the welcome mat. This is a tower. This is the tallest tower in Taipei as she landed just a few hours ago with the words, Speaker Pelosi, welcome to Taiwan. Here's a look at the tower.
She is an elected official. So it is fair for us as Americans to say, did we even want you to go there? Do we support this, right? Because it seems like it will create a lot of conflict. Beyond just posting this tweet and saying that America stands with Taiwan, which again is not official U.S. policy, Although lawmakers are working to change that in order to prove that they're tough on China, right?
But here's something you won't see in the Western media. This happened this afternoon. Protests erupting in Taiwan saying, get out, Nancy Pelosi. F you, Nancy Pelosi. Get out of here. We're not your puppet. Take a look at some of these protests that have been unfolding. People in Taiwan protesting the dangerous provocation by Nancy Pelosi. You can see this, condemning local politicians as U.S. puppets and traitors. And you can see these people holding up the signs saying, we don't need America to treat us as a pawn. F off, Nancy Pelosi. Pretty amazing to see this. I mean,
because they understand that their safety is in jeopardy, right? So it's easy to say, well, we stand with sovereign nations. We think all nations that want to be independent should. And so we think that's a good thing. So we're going to show up for our friend, right?
Right.
That's a nice gesture. But if there is a world global power threatening violence as a result, you have an Air Force plane. You can fly away. How many people cannot?
And what I want to get back to, though, is the White House being out of sync on like our audio was at the beginning of the show. But apparently it's all sorted now. So bravo to our great team here that fixed the audio out of sync issues. But I want to talk about the White House being out of sync with Nancy Pelosi and the House of Representatives. So John Kirby, National Security's John Kirby, former Rear Admiral John Kirby, is on a different page. I mean, here's John Kirby talking about how we don't believe that we don't support Taiwan independence. And yet we're literally, Nancy Pelosi is going there basically talking about we support democracy. We support Taiwan's democracy. And here is John Kirby of the White House saying we do not support Taiwan's democracy. Listen.
We've repeatedly said that we oppose any unilateral changes to the status quo from either side. We have said that we do not support Taiwan independence. And we have said that we expect cross-strait differences to be resolved by peaceful means. We have communicated this directly to...
That's what you're saying, but it's not what you're doing. Right? And it's not even what congressional representatives believe. Now there's a bipartisan bill to rename the makeshift embassy in Washington that is manned by Taiwanese officials, a more official embassy. And if I could just skip ahead, there's also lawmakers now supporting this Taiwan Policy Act of 2022, which is currently making its way through.
I mean, it seems like the United States government, along with the military, are working with the Taiwanese to help defend Taiwan. I mean, they had I think the tallest building in Taipei, I believe. They had a, welcome, whatever, U.S., Nancy Pelosi, they have a huge message up there. There's all these, it seems to be backroom dealings where the U.S. is supporting Taiwan. And they're coming out and saying that, they're playing both sides of the fence publicly to appease the CCP. But all the while, behind the scenes, it appears that they're supporting Taiwan militarily. And China, they can't invade now. Now, when the whole world is watching, they're not going to invade Taiwan. They're not going to do it when everyone expects it. So, and who knows? It's probably. CCP are probably going to, I'm sure they're working on something besides an invasion, some other type of covert way of taking over Taiwan or whatever. They're constantly, the Chinese in the past, especially in the past 10 years, have ramped up getting involved in as many other countries' elections as possible. South Korea is a big one, U.S., there's a few others, but those are the two big ones. So, do a little bit more on this video from Redacted.
Congress. It would provide a $4.5 billion aid to Taiwan. Why do they need that exactly? Because we think they might have war brought to their doorstep?
Well, we're going to make a lot of money on the all the military, high-tech, expensive military weaponry that we've been selling them. We're just going to sell them even more. Same thing has been happening in Ukraine, but we have not used actual troops, U.S. troops in Ukraine to help fight off the Russians. And I don't think we'll hopefully do not get to that point. But Taiwan, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we would just back off, because our Navy has been patrolling the South China Seas for a very long time. We have a very, very strong ally in Japan. This is all part of, just after World War II, all of this was agreed upon and is still in effect. And Guam also, China has big plans. They're building, obviously, in the China Sea, building new islands, military bases, and missile launchers, what have you. They're fortifying as many areas and many islands as they can in South China Sea. There's talks that they may try to attack Guam, which is probably, I think the U.S.'s biggest military stronghold in that area.
As well as declare Taiwan a major non-NATO ally and threaten China with major sanctions if they make any nefarious moves against Taiwan. So, wait, sanctions? Because that's working out so well for us. We're going to go that route again?
We played the Ro Khanna soundbite from last week. We played it last night on the show, where Congressman Ro Khanna from California says, and I want to touch that with what Newt Gingrich just said last night as well, former Speaker of the House, by the way, who was the last Speaker of the House to travel to Taiwan 25 years ago, back in the mid-90s. So Ro Khanna, which we featured on the show, said, China needs us. They would absolutely collapse without the United States. They would be crazy to attack. We should call their bluff, he said, which is laughable, right? China. Think about how massive China is, the partnerships that it has with India and Russia and Brazil and other. Look at the BRICS nations, right? Think about the Belt and Road Initiative, which they unfurled across Asia and into Europe, right? Railway infrastructure that the United States sat back on, crossed its arms, is like, this is interesting. You're building railroads, you're building new shipping lanes, you're doing all of these things. And that even Europe now relies on. I bring up DHL, right? DHL is a shipping company, just like FedEx, UPS, based in Germany, using Chinese infrastructure now because it's so good. If DHL, a German company, couldn't use China's infrastructure with this Belt and Road Initiative, they would have delays, massive delays for shipping, right? Which we now demand packages in 2 days. It would be pushed back a week or more if they had to go back to their old European infrastructure, which is stunning. Now, Newt Gingrich last night saying the same thing as Ro Khanna. Usually I think Newt Gingrich I've interviewed him many, many times. He's a very smart man. Last night, he said something absolutely ridiculous, echoing Ro Khanna's same comments, that China would be crazy to attack us. They absolutely need us. They would collapse without the United States. Are these people insane?
I don't understand this rhetoric at all. It's like, okay, maybe they're politicians who just never go to Walmart or use Amazon and realize that everything in their house
comes from China,
right? Look, here's a small example, is that a few years ago, China decided that it would no longer accept plastics from America because China had the capabilities of recycling plastics. The United States does not. What happened? The United States is now buried in its own plastic, cannot recycle it, doesn't have the facilities to do that, right? That's just one little piece of infrastructure that we relied on, outsourced, that we absolutely cannot do on our own.
What is it? Only 6% of American plastics are even recycled at all?
It's about 5 to 6%.
So when you put it in a recycling container, where does it go? It's not being recycled in the United States.
Who the hell knows, right? It's a mystery. The Guardian did a research in London and sort of followed a piece of recycling and realized that it ended up, in some kind of trash. It's a farce. That's a tangent. But at the same time, if that's just one little piece of infrastructure, cannot be sustained when China cuts us off, think about everything else, right? And we talk about here a lot how the economy is so dependent on this whack as Walmart, Amazon, China these three pieces of the puzzle, which artificially keep prices low for goods in the United States, well, you know, it would just be a disaster.
Well, so as expected, China's response has been swift to Nancy Pelosi showing up, of course, kicking off live fire drills. They did that this afternoon. Multiple areas and waters surrounding Taiwan. Beijing announced these exercises will continue from the evening of August 2nd, literally having started within the hour that she arrived in Taipei, through the next days. Here are just a few videos over the past few hours of China mobilizing for war. This is Xiamen City with hundreds of tanks moving into position. You can see this. This is unverified footage from social media reports showing mobile ballistic missiles, missile launchers along a rail line as well coming into. This is about 125 miles away from Taiwan. But you can see all these tanks. You can see, look at all of these missiles in line here. You can see all of these anti-ballistic missiles moving in line along the rail lines, and they're mobilizing. And they are absolutely prepared. Now, it could be absolutely, you know, show of force. Look at the rail lines filled with the military equipment. Could be just a, you know, just as some American politicians are saying, Ro Khanna and others, this is just bluster. This is just bluster. This is just China trying to show that it's strong. Now, what are they going to do? The real question is, well, now what happens?
Well,
right?
okay, but let's play that out. If it's China trying to show that they're strong, shouldn't we take some stock in that?
Right, exactly. I mean, so, okay, like Ro Khanna is like, just call their bluff. Because what are they going to do? Take out a few of our aircraft carriers and just kill a few thousand Americans on board these ships? Let them try it. Let these Americans get shot down. Let's just have some fun with it.
Again,
and that's literally
like
what they're calling for.
The rhetoric right now is at an all-time high, but we're pretending that there are not lives at stake, that it's just kind of a fun game of like, let's take some pictures and see how jealous we can make someone else on social media. That is juvenile.
Right. Andy in our chat says one word, propaganda. Right. Where's the propaganda though coming from? It's a double-edged propaganda, right? We're hearing it from the
I really would like to see India get involved here. They are always wise to stay on the sidelines and not get involved in this. But you know, I hear a lot of arguments why, you know, just let China take Taiwan, but it's going to severely hurt that entire region, and it's going to hurt India. India is walking a fine line. They're part of BRICS, you know, Brazil, Russia, India, China, Saudi Arabia. But India doesn't get along with China. I mean, they recently had serious skirmishes up at high altitudes in the Himalayas. They fought a war with China in the late 60s, 67, I believe it was. And that's going to continue. China's going to continue to... China's trying to take inch by inch in that border that they share with India. They've taken areas in a smaller country, I forget the name of it, that's near India and the China border. India has to play their part here. And Taiwan has been independent, I think it was 49, right? It was around 1949. I mean, they left. They were the nationalists fighting the communists, and they left to start their own country. And China, since that moment, has been trying to make the rest of the world believe that they control Taiwan. So, yeah, I really wish India would actually speak up and say something on the world stage here about this. India has to play a bigger role.
In the United States, you have unison between Republicans and Democrats, like coming together, like kumbaya moment. We can't agree on anything in the United States, but absolutely Lindsey Graham and Bob Menendez of New Jersey, senators coming together, putting together a plan to make sure that we support, Taiwan, and we're anti-China and all of this stuff, pushing for these military drills. We have these military drills this afternoon. Here, China's defense ministry said Tuesday night it's going to conduct a series of targeted military operations to safeguard national sovereignty. In response to Pelosi's visit, it vowed to, quote, resolutely thwart external interference and Taiwan independence separatist attempts. And you can see this map here. This is Taiwan. This is where they're doing the drills in the red boxes, totally surrounded. And of course, China coming out also in the papers saying China vows targeted military actions in response to Pelosi Taiwan visit. Targeted military action. You pointed out earlier, they've already started cyber attacks.
Yes, that already has happened within hours of her landing. The president of Taiwan and other military and government websites have experienced a denial of service attack. That's when targeted bots flood the server with requests and those sites go down. China did not take responsibility for those actions, but we do know that the Chinese...
When you look at... it was Iran. It was, what was it again? Hack attack against Iranian nuclear. There was an attack. Now, Israel was laying claim to it, but I believe the U.S. worked with Israel on one of Iran's nuclear facilities. That was a cyber attack. Covered it on a past stream. Is this recent? Let me check this one out. Yeah, this is somewhat recently. There was a major attack earlier, but this I don't have the article up, but this is from theguardian.com. Posted April 11, 2021. Shutdown happened hours after Natanz reactor's new centrifuges were started. Israel and the U.S. have been attacking Iranian nuclear facilities for a while, and there was a massive attack a while back. Could that be China's way into Taiwan? Could they try to launch some type of attack? The prize to be taken are those semiconductors, but could they try to attack TSMC, the main semiconductor manufacturer in Taiwan, try to take that down, hurt Taiwan's economy that way? That would be easier to do from a geopolitical standpoint than an all-out invasion. All-out invasion would look real ugly. So is some kind of massive cyber attack on the way? Maybe before invasion or just the main part of the attack?
The Chinese government has very experienced and sophisticated...
They never take responsibility.
Well, of course, most governments don't, even though we know that most governments, especially China, the United States, Russia, they all have very sophisticated hackers who can do whatever they want.
Liz Wheeler tweeted just a short time ago, this will lead to an invasion of Taiwan. This is her prediction. China was never going to shoot down Pelosi. They don't want war with the United States. China wants to unseat us as a superpower, not mutual destruction. But this will be their excuse to invade Taiwan because U.S. won't stop that invasion. Pray for the people of Taiwan. So she believes this is an invasion of Taiwan is coming. I'd love to hear your comments on this in the chat. Right now, let us know. Do you think that Taiwan is invaded by China? Was this always the inevitability?
Which seems like a template of exactly what happened in Ukraine, right? The United States can talk a lot of rhetoric about Russian threats, right? And then can support a conflict while not really supporting a conflict. And if she's right, then who loses is just the people of Taiwan, right? So
Stuxnet was the name of the attack, and that was back in 2010. It was a malicious computer worm, first uncovered in 2010, and thought to have been in development since 2005. Its targets were nuclear facilities in Iran, causing substantial damage to the nuclear program of Iran. and it's believed that it was developed by both Israel and the United States. So, it's possible Russia and China are basically in the same camp right now. Invasion of Russia into Ukraine. It's possible. Obviously, only conjecture, but it's possible that CCP could try to launch some type of massive cyber attack at Taiwan facilities.
As long as the politicians are smiling for the cameras, we might think that people of Taiwan want this legitimizing visit, but social media would suggest otherwise, that they're afraid. They don't want conflict brought to their land.
Did you read the New York Times piece? So Thomas Friedman, who's a warmonger, he wrote an interesting piece in the New York Times, I thought, and a rare New York Times piece that literally calls what she's doing absolutely reckless. Why Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan is utterly reckless, says the New York Times. Can you believe it? This is Thomas Friedman, for crying out loud. Friedman says, quote, "I have a lot of respect for House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, but if she does go ahead with a visit to Taiwan this week, which she did, against President Biden's wishes, she will be doing something that is utterly reckless, dangerous, and irresponsible," he says. "Nothing good will come of it. Taiwan will not be more secure or more prosperous as a result of this purely symbolic visit, and a lot of bad things could happen. These include a Chinese military response that could result in the U.S. being plunged into indirect conflicts with a nuclear-armed Russia and a nuclear-armed China at the same time. And if you think our European allies, who are facing an existential war with Russia over Ukraine, will join us if there is U.S. conflict with China over Taiwan triggered by this unnecessary visit, you are badly misreading the world." Think about that.
Yes. What he's alluding to is that the United States would have overplayed its hand,
right,
in asking for help in a second war against a global superpower.
Another big piece of this is that China provides a lot of drones, right? They build a lot of drones. And so far, publicly, at least from what we know, they have not supplied military assistance to Russia. They've kept their head out of this mess, right? They've kind of stayed away from the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Now, if we poke the bear and China decides they want to support Russia in a bigger way by providing these drones, which could prove this is where we talk about World War III on this show, not because it's like some sort of a fantasy 1980s movie, like Red Dawn or something, but because it's actually happening in front of us right now. When you have these geopolitical powers moving in concert together, moving and partnering up either secretly or publicly, and then on the battlefield is Ukraine, and Taiwan becomes the next Ukraine, right? People of Taiwan are destroyed because of a NATO-backed proxy war that we want to take on with China. This is what happens.
And it's exactly what we all freaked out about when Donald Trump accidentally or on purpose, we don't know, took a call from the Taiwanese president at the time when he was still president-elect. And remember the rhetoric then was, these are things that wars start over these type of things. You may remember the freak out from the likes of MSNBC and Rachel Maddow. In fact, we have this clip of exactly how serious the media took it when Donald Trump only spoke on the phone.
And this does reflect the biggest foreign policy change toward the most populous nation on earth since the 1970s. This conceivably throws a grenade into one of our most carefully built, fragile, important foreign policy relationships, the largest nation on earth.
This is terrible. How could he have done such a thing?
This means
to
war.
Accept a phone call?
This is not, these are foreign policy mishaps that now it sort of disrupts the equilibrium that we have going right now with China. Well, okay, we don't care about that anymore, I suppose.
I guess. So in addition to the New York Times slamming this trip as utterly reckless, CNN also slamming this as a mistake. I'm surprised to see these liberal rags saying this, but Pelosi's Taiwan visit risks creating greater instability between the U.S. and China. Look at that headline. There it is. This is, and both in the analysis point to this very thing that's going to lead to greater destabilization. We already saw that in the economic market.
I mean, people want to focus on this, the Taiwan China invading Taiwan, but there's a much bigger picture than that. They're taking over all of the South China Sea, and China's trying to take over with their Navy. Their Navy now, I think, at least on a unit basis, maybe not quality every ship in China's Navy, but number-wise, I believe they have the biggest Navy in the world now. They're illegally fishing in other countries' waters, taking their fish. Once again, always about resources, but they've been doing that in South America. They go all over the world. They're really CCP Navy vessels, disguising themselves as fishing ships, and they're just going wherever they want in other countries' waters and taking as much fish as they want. And the seas, to begin with, we're already at a really dangerous level of depleting seafood in general, and China has just gone completely insane, and their objective is to have complete control, at least that is from a Navy level in the waters. They could shut down trade worldwide in that whole region, only allow their ships to go through. They could decimate India's economy, which, once again, why is India not speaking up? Maybe they are. I can take a look. I follow Wyon Gravitas. That's an Indian news show. But the media, I guess, is speaking about it, but government officials in India and their military is doing nothing. And just the rest of, just allowing China to just take complete control. It's absolutely bizarre to me. And we have everybody here in the United States making the U.S. look like the bad guy here. When China's, depleting fish resources worldwide illegally, been doing that for decades now. And now has the most powerful Navy in the world, and they've been addressing that they're going to take Taiwan for years. I mean, when's it going to end? What is the solution? Just to let China do whatever they want? Take over, have complete control of the seas, take over all the South China Sea, take Taiwan, take everything, take Guam. I don't know. It's a bit absurd to me. I just feel like there's nobody left that has a backbone. And the United States is the only one, the only country trying to do something, and it's doing it in a really retarded way.
Markets. I mean, you talk about cratering a currency, which is what we did. By the announcement, literally, markets plummeted as a result of this. So, how many people's livelihoods did you disrupt for your little visit overnight to meet with the president of Taiwan?
Yes. I don't know. We will have to watch for it. Some global policy experts were saying, well, maybe she'll go, but she won't spend the night. Well, she arrived late at night, so clearly she's not going to take a next red-eye flight out of there. But then now the question remains, which we will keep our eye on, what is there to do, right? Besides just take pictures for your social media, who do you need to meet with? I think that the American taxpayers, as well as the people of Taiwan, are owed a real explanation of why do such an expensive and dangerous thing. If it's just to talk about climate change policy, which governments have shown that they are shit at, right? Or, I don't know. Someone in the chat points out she has some investments there, but then that should not be a taxpayer-funded visit. So, yeah, I would like some real answers.
All right, so that was redacted. That was pretty good. I mean, I think what they're doing at redacted is pretty good for the most part. And with that, I'm going to end the stream. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. Kelsey Kish was in the chat. Anywhere, of course. I got your stuff on that Jones trial. I'll check that out off stream. It's not something I want to cover here, especially on SnoozeTube, which I'm streaming to right now, and DLive. But we'll see what happens with that. That's a big free speech issue that needs to be analyzed. And thanks everybody for the lemons and for your support. Might be on tomorrow. I'm going to try. I'm hoping I get this lightning cable to HDMI converter for my iPhone tomorrow, but Amazon's telling me it may or may not arrive tomorrow, and if it doesn't, I can get a refund, so I might just go to the Apple store and get one. Get the official adapter from Apple, which costs a fortune. In typical Apple fashion, might even get some HDMI cables too, just so I have more. Sometimes HDMI cables are the issue too, but I think I'm almost positive it's this adapter converter. All right. Be safe, everybody. Stay cool if it's hot where you're at. And drink water, I guess. But be safe. I'll see everybody on the other side.
My message is that we'll be watching you. This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of